Hey there, quilting rockstar. Welcome to String and Story. My name is Holly Ann Knight, and it's my job to guide you to quilt and to live with confidence. Today I have some tips for you about how to cut out 4 patches using your AccuQuilt Go. Now, there are 2 primary methods that we can use in order to make 4 patches. We can either cut out each of these 4 individual squares on its own and then sew them together, or we can cut out strips, sew our strips together, and then subcut them in order to make our 4 patch. And I have some tips for doing your cutting and preparation for both of these. Let's get started, all right? First up, let's talk about cutting squares. Now, I am using a 4-patch die from the 8-inch cube, so this would make a 4-inch finished 4-patch. And I've got some fabric here to show you a couple of things that I think are really important. First, notice that the blade on this die is at an angle, so you want to make sure that the grain of your fabric covers up that blade but also lines up with it, all right? And I've laid this fabric down face up so that I can lay this other fabric face down on top of it. What happens then is when I am ready to make my 4-patch, and you know we sew our 4 patches into pairs first, I'll be able to peel these up in right side together pairs ready for sewing, all right? So I have my fabric lined up. I'm gonna go ahead and run it through the AccuQuilt Go here, and I'll show you what I mean when we get to the other side. What's wonderful about the AccuQuilt is your cutting is really fast. This will actually make 2 4 patches at a time, and it's really low strain on your body. So if you have any kind of vision issues or joint issues, oh, I lost 2 of my patches over there to the mat, then it makes things really simple. So as I peel this up, you can see that these squares ideally would stay lined up if I hadn't had some static issues, but they're right sides together, so I can literally just peel them up, run them through my machine, press them, pair them again, and off I go, and I will have 2 4 patches finished lickety-split just by putting 2 layers of fabric through my AccuQuilt. Remember that your AccuQuilt can cut up to 6 layers at a time, so that means you could do this 3 times over, right? And you could get 12 4 patches all at once, all right? Now, our strip method. Got a big old die for this one, guys. Now, when you're sewing 4 patches using strips, you're gonna cut your long strips. Again, we're gonna use that trick of putting things right sides together so they're ready for sewing. And it's up to you whether or not you then wanna use your AccuQuilt for the sub-cutting or if you wanna go back to a rotary cutter for that. It might depend on how many you have to do. Now, I have here, this is a strip of fabric, but it happens to have a fold on one side, so I have 2 right sides to this fabric. So I'm gonna put it in a sandwich of my secondary fabric. Again, I'm gonna take a peek and do my best to make sure that that grain of the fabric, the way that the fibers are woven together, that the straight of that grain is along the straight of my blade. I can use my finger to kind of feel where the blade is to make sure I have it totally covered up. And do the same thing with that second piece of fabric, and then complete my sandwich over here. Now this is gonna make 2 sets of strips that will be ready to rumble, all right? And again, I simply feed them through the AccuQuilt. It takes a little longer when it's a big long die. And stick a hand on it so I don't fall off the end over here. And I can slide. If you're real careful, you can slide that mat off and not have issues with static. And as I peel this up, now you can see I did not get overly persnickety. I'm gonna grab a pair of scissors, just a second, guys. I did not get overly persnickety about my fabric waste for this quick demo, but you could make sure that there's not a whole bunch of extra fabric around your die if you don't want to have the extra strings. But now I have 4 strips ready to go, and when I take them to my machine, I will simply peel them up and sew down one edge, and then once you press them open, you can nest them back together. I'll show this. So I would take 2, and I could lay them across the AccuQuilt. And of course I'd want to trim off the extra so that I'm not wasting fabric. But I could go ahead and pre-nest those 2 sets of strips together and run this through again and be ready to peel up for that second set of seams. So lickety split, you can get a whole bunch of 4 patches cut and ready to just run through your machine, press them, run them through again, and you'll be all done before you know it.